12:08, and it's August 10th. So we will start with the self-introduction, and if we start over with Mr. Molina, and then go around the table. And if you are the voting delegate for your city or for county or LA district, please identify yourself as a voting delegate. So please, Mr. Molina.
Hernan Molina, Governmental Affairs Liaison for the City of West Hollywood.
For Supervisor Horvath and her alternate in this meeting.
Lester Friedman, City of Beverly Hills voting member.
Hi, I'm Sharona Nazarian. I'm a councilwoman, but here I'm just a visitor. Thank you.
Hello, Gabriella Yap, Senior Policy Management Administrator of Public Safety for Beverly Hills. Cindy Owens, Municipal Affairs Program Manager for Beverly Hills.
Jeff Cow, Transportation and Planning Deputy for Tracy Park, City of Los Angeles.
Enisha Clark, Human Services Outreach Manager with the City of Beverly Hills.
Cameron Kessinger, Senior Management Analyst with the Rent Stabilization Division, City of Beverly Hills.
Jeff Kiernan with the League of California Cities.
Josh Kirpies with the City of Santa Monica.
Oscar de la Torre, Voting Delegate, City of Santa Monica.
Larissa Hogan, Transportation Planner, City of Culver City.
Shelley Wolfberg, Assistant to the City Manager, City of Culver City.
Göran Eriksson, Council Member, City of Culver City, voting delegate.
Winnie Fong with the West Side Cities Council of Governments.
Lauren Langer, Counsel for the COG.
Riley O'Brien, Analyst with the COG.
Hi, Chris Paulson, Human Services Administrator for the City of Beverly Hills.
Hi, Nestor Otazu, Deputy Director of Rent Stabilization for the City of Beverly Hills.
Thank you and welcome everyone. And then we have a number of people online. So let's see how we do this. You probably don't see the order that I see. So maybe Winnie can handle it since she has the computer.
Okay, for online, is there anyone representing the City of Beverly Hills? All right, City of Culver City. Oh, wait. Okay, City of Culver City.
Hello.
It's okay, Freddie. You can go.
Hi, Freddie Puza, Culver City Council Member. Thank you.
Hi, this is Diana Chang, the Chief Transportation Officer with the City of Culver City.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yasmin Amani McMorrin. I'm currently the Vice Mayor in Culver City. Glad to be here.
Dan O'Brien, Culver City Council Member. And alternate.
Great. City of Santa Monica.
Hi, Ashay Stevenson from the Human Services Division. Sorry, Anuj.
No worries, Ashay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Anuj Gupta, as of today, the Interim Director of the Department of Transportation, Santa Monica.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jason Klieger, Mobility Manager for the City of Santa Monica.
Great. City of West Hollywood.
John Heilman, I'm the council member and alternate.
Chelsea Byers, Council Member, happy guest.
City of Los Angeles. Doesn't look like it here. County of Los Angeles.
Hello, all. Samaje Hughes from LA County's Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. And also I have Dana Pratt, Deputy Director of Housing and Tenant Protections with the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs also.
Great. And anyone from the Senate District?
Hi, everyone. Jake Ettinger with Senator Ben Allen.
Thank you. Anyone else? Did we miss anyone?
Jarrett Thompson with Councilwoman Yaroslavsky, City of Los Angeles, City 5.
And I'm Lauren Wren. I'm Associate Planner in Advanced Planning at Culver City.
And I think that's everyone, right? Okay. Back to you.
Thank you. That moves us over to item number 3, which is our action items. And the first one is 3A. The board meeting notes, they were distributed with the agenda. So anyone has any comments?
Yes, I have a comment. I just want to make a correction that Larissa Hogan from Culver City was in attendance at the June meeting. So I just want to make a friendly amendment to include that in the amended meeting notes.
Thank you. Any further suggestions for amendment or changes? Hearing none, then I can entertain a motion to approve with the suggested amending to add a person. We have a motion and a second from Oscar. Motion by Lester. So everyone in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose?
Aye.
Oh, wait, John.
Abstain? Okay, the minutes approved. Thank you. That moves us over, over to item number B. We have actually B and C. There's 2 different outside board that we're going to appoint representatives from our COG to today. And we have a total of 4 applicants, 2 for each of those 2 boards. So let's start with 3A and 3B. And we're going to allow 1 minute for the applicants, if they are present, to do a short introduction presentation. So with 3B, there we have Vice Mayor McMorran from Culver City online. And I think Bill Brock, Santa Monica, he's traveling somewhere, so he's not here. So Vice Mayor McMorran.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. Again, good afternoon to all in the room and online. Again, my name is Yasmin Amani McMorran. I'm really excited, I guess, to be here for a reappointment to this really important commission. I feel, climate change and our environment is just our duty and responsibility as policymakers to ensure that we're doing all that we can to promote a sustainable environment for all of us. In particular, as y'all know, the Ballona Creek flows through our community, which drains stormwater and urban runoff. It's funny, coincidentally, yesterday I did an education trip about water and infrastructure at the Metropolitan Water District, and learned a lot about our infrastructure and all of that. And this is just something that I'm excited and grateful to be in this space. Looking forward to hopefully continuing to contribute. And as always, I bring equity in the room with me wherever I go, and having a keen understanding of how many of these issues are very intersectional and impact different groups in different ways, and being very mindful about that in the policy making that we do. But I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to be reappointed here, and open to any questions. And again, appreciate the opportunity to serve and the opportunity to make remarks this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone has any questions for the candidate? Okay, and Phil Brock is not present. So we have 2 candidates. Any one who wants to make a motion, suggestions, or discussion? Yeah, Oscar. Okay, we have a motion for Phil Brock. And there is a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. And this we do by roll call. So, Vinny.
Yes. City of Beverly Hills.
Brock.
City of Santa Monica.
Brock.
County of Los Angeles. and City of Culver City.
Brock.
Would you like to see? Oh, yes. Oh.
So that motion carried. That moves us over to item 3C, the SCAG Community Economic Human Development Committee. And I think that Chelsea Byers want to make a comment. Is she online?
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, apologies to not be with you all in person. I'm joining from across a 10-hour time difference because I wanted to be here tonight in support of Councilmember Freddie Puza for the CEHD position with SCAG. I recognize that West Hollywood has held the seat most recently through the leadership of former Mayor Lauren Meister, and I believe our region is best served when a range of voices can have a seat at this table, especially with this conversation. Beyond that, Freddie is just an exemplary leader who I'm really excited to see in this leadership role. And so I'll formally withdraw my nomination and ask that this body support Councilmember Freddie Puza.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So that means we have one applicant to this position. So Oscar. Okay, we have a motion for Puza. Do you have a second?
Motion for Puza.
And I'll second. And we have a second. Let's have discussion. Any discussion? None. Let's vote. Do the roll call.
Yeah, I'll do the roll call. City of Beverly Hills,
Puza.
City of Santa Monica,
Puza.
County of Los Angeles, and in City of Culver City.
Puza. Thank you. Motion carried. So there, I want to welcome Phil Brock and Freddie Puza to their new appointments. That moves us over to 3D, which is the audit engagement letter that's also been included. It's a pretty standard item that we have. Staff, any additional comments?
No, we have engaged with this auditor, Moss Levy and Hartzman, at the last audit. We would like to continue working with them for the next one. The packet includes the scope of services for a fee of $6,595, which meets our budget. Staff recommends that the board approve and sign the engagement letter.
Okay, any question for staff? I can entertain a motion for approval. We have a motion and a second. Second. And a second for the discussion. Let's vote, roll call.
Beverly Hills,
Approve.
Santa Monica,
Approve.
County of Los Angeles,
Approve.
and Culver City.
Approve. That moves us, that motion carries. That moves us over to 3E. And that's the contract with County of Los Angeles for the fiscal year 23-24 Homeless Regional Coordination and Local Solutions Fund. The recommendation was to approve delegation of authority, and that has to do with that the contract came fairly late. I think you all received it yesterday in the mail. So it actually, you have had a chance to look at it, but I'm going to defer to discussion here if we should approve or if we should delegate. But first, staff report.
Yes, as the chair mentioned, just a brief background on the April board meeting. The board had approved the equal distribution of the local solutions funds for this fiscal year, 2023 to 2024. The contract wasn't included, but we did include a statement of work that outlines the services from each jurisdiction of how the funds will be used. We had submitted the contract to our legal counsel that we're asking the county to, or the board to approve a delegation of authority for our legal counsel to review, negotiate, and execute the contract on behalf of our COG so we can allow our cities to access the funds sooner. I should note that this equal distribution is just for this fiscal year. The county would come back to estimate the amount of local solutions funds for our cities, which will be an average of the last 2 years at the point in time count. So once the county estimates the amount for each of the COGs, we will come back to the board to discuss potential allocation of the funds, which includes either distributions to our jurisdictions or identify a regional program or policy for the local solutions funds. So that's the staff report, if there are any questions.
Anyone has questions for staff? Oscar.
It's not totally related to the contract itself, but just it is related in some way. But in terms of the county has a needle distribution program in our city, maybe in other cities, I'm sure, but in our city, we wanted to, and I think it might be around homelessness. I'm not sure if it's within that sort of budget framework, but we have some concerns about how the program is being administered in our city, and I wanted to know when would it be appropriate for us to engage the county, or how would we go about having that discussion to inform the county of our concerns about the the implementation of that program.
Staff, do you have any thoughts on this? But if you what I suggest is that we actually at the end of the meeting, we have future meeting and agenda items, and I would suggest you come back. I would support you. Come back at that point and ask that this gets put on the agenda for next time, and then staff can start prepping, and then we can have a discussion. Okay. Sounds good. Yes. Okay.
So I still have a question.
Yeah.
So the question that we're being asked is approval of delegation to staff to continue to negotiate. Is that?
Yes, our legal counsel.
And it's only for, the delegation is only for this year's
contract,
and it'll come back in the future.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Funds. And regarding Council Member De La Torre, we will agendize your item in October and invite the appropriate county staff member. Yes. And Josh, did you have a comment?
Yeah, we had a question also about the contract. So now that we're delegating the authority to negotiate, are there aspects of the contract that is in front of us today that legal counsel sees as problematic that she's going to negotiate on, or how much change will there be? And then specifically on 1D, where it talks about the county reducing funds with notification, and what is the thoughts on that, and what protections do we have in that case?
So I have two thoughts. One, I think the reason the agenda was structured this way was because we didn't have the contract. And so we structured it as a delegation of authority, and we just got it last night. So I couldn't say with 100% certainty, I'm not going to change any of the terms, but there wasn't anything, specific that I could point out today that was expressly problematic. This language, I think it's pretty standard just to say that if the county has a huge reduction in budget and they need to make big cuts throughout countywide, that this contract might also be affected in a proportional amount to budget cuts that are happening countywide. That's how I read this section, but I'm happy to ask them, for more specifics if need be.
And how does that come down on the justification that they will never reduce our amount more than 10% in a certain year? I mean, doesn't that conflict?
Where's the 10? I'm sorry, where's the 10% you're referring to?
So there's an agreement that the county agreed to when they distributed the funds, or when they decided how to distribute the funds. They decided that they would distribute them based upon COG counts. And then they also decided that if a count went down, it would never, the city wouldn't have to worry about, the COG wouldn't have to worry about a 10%, more than a 10% reduction. It basically protects them so they can plan ahead.
Yes, Josh, you're referring to the 10% stop loss. That was not in this contract, but it's part of the local solutions guidelines. So basically what it's saying is that for next fiscal year, because the pit count can be volatile, that the next year's allocation of the COG funds will be no more than 10% loss of what our current allocation is today.
My question is, how does that, isn't that in a direct conflict with, if we were to have a situation where the county had to reduce all of their salaries, how do we still?
So maybe that's a term that we should discuss with them through this negotiation. Good point. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Any further comments, questions? So the proposal in front of us is to approve delegation of authority to negotiate agreement with the County of Los Angeles and execute agreement for fiscal year 2023-24 homelessness coordination and local solution fund, and it's only for that year. I can entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Yes, Beverly Hills,
Yes.
Santa Monica,
Yes.
County of Los Angeles,
Abstain.
and Culver City.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to F, 3F, which is also a funding agreement amendment with Metro and contract with Fear and Peers for professional services for the WSCCOG multi-sub-regional program. Staff report, please.
Yes, this is a two-part action item. Brief background, Metro provided each COG with funding for the multi-sub-regional program, which included planning activities. The contract timeline lapsed and we still have funding remaining. It was about $94,000 to conduct programming activities for the MSP program. So this first action requests that the board approve the funding agreement amendment. The second action is an agreement with Fear and Peers to continue providing professional services for the MSP program. We engaged with the consultant back in 2020 to conduct a mobility study and the MSP plan concurrently as part of a SCAG contract, which expired on June 30th. Since there is funding remaining from the Metro funding agreement, we recommend that we enter a separate and direct contract with Fear and Peers to continue the MSP update and to complete this year's MSP update, as well as conduct one more update for next year. So we're asking the board to delegate authority for our legal counsel to review, negotiate, and execute the contract with Fear and Peers.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, it's two parts, but since there was no question, I suggest we take it as one. I could entertain a motion that includes the approve the amended funding agreement and then approve a delegation.
So do you want me to read the whole thing or?
Yeah.
Okay, so move to approve the amended funding agreement with Metro for the WSCCOG multi-sub-regional program MSP, and 2, approve delegation of authority to negotiate agreement with Fear and Peers and execute the agreement to provide professional services for the MSP annual updates.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Beverly Hills,
Yes.
Santa Monica,
Yes.
County of Los Angeles,
Abstain.
and Culver City.
Aye. Great, thank you, everyone. That moves us over to item number 4, Executive Director's Report.
Yes, a few updates. We would first like to announce the call for candidates for the Technical Advisory Committee for the Streets and Freeway Alternative Representative. Our alternate, Kevin Riley, is no longer with or has left the city of Beverly Hills. So we are seeking a replacement to serve as the alternate to our current delegate, who is Andrew Maximus of Culver City. This position is for city staff from our member jurisdictions, and we will be accepting letters of interest between now and until the end of September. And we would vote and appoint the alternate in our October meeting. Also in the questions? Okay. Also in the staff report, we've also outlined recent activities, including our monthly meetings with our transportation and homelessness working groups. We've also attached 2 memos from our consultant Eco Northwest for our West Side Cities COG Sub-Regional Affordable Housing Program Study that have been finalized. We do want to call attention to a discrepancy in one of the memos that the City of Culver City staff had flagged for us. So just wanted to make a public note that in the pro forma analysis, the address for Culver City that's been used in the analysis is incorrect. Culver City does not own the building that's indicated in the diagram, which will change the concept and analysis. And we should also note that the analysis was a way to demonstrate funding scenarios for the COG. And our contract with the consultant ended at the end of June, so they are unable to revise the analysis. However, we do recommend that if the city would like to reanalyze this site or analyze a new site, to consider our on-call TA services under REAP 2.0. We just submitted our application to SCAG for REAP 2.0 in May, and we're waiting for SCAG to execute the contract and procure a consultant to provide that technical services to us, and we'll be coming back to the board to consider and approve the consultant for these on-call technical assistance. Any questions regarding the report?
I might clarify with regards to what was in the report regarding Culver City. There is a building and a parking lot. We own the parking lot, not the building. So the parking lot is still what we are actually moved forward, and I'm going to talk about that a little later. Okay, any questions for staff regarding the director's report? Seeing none, thank you. That moves us over to item 5, transportation update.
Yes, thank you, Chair Erickson. So just a few quick transportation updates, all related to Metro funding programs. So the first is just a follow-up from our last meeting in which the COG board unanimously approved our annual update to the multi-year sub-regional program project list. That update has been transmitted along with the necessary documentation to Metro, and they're currently conducting their required 60-day review of that request. We expect that the Metro board will approve this annual update request during their October board meeting, which will be shortly after our next board meeting as a COG. The other sub-regional funding program through Metro's Measure M is the Sub-Regional Equity Program. And during our last meeting, we also submitted a letter to the Metro CEO and leadership just requesting that any accelerated SEP funds, Sub-Regional Equity Program funds, be distributed equitably among the subregions so that we don't get left behind in any sort of accelerated funding requests that may require borrowing or other mechanisms to obtain those funds earlier than scheduled. So we have received confirmation from staff from our County Supervisor Board member, Lindsay Horvath, who has confirmed that the Metro leadership has received that letter. They are preparing a response. And we have also learned in a July report to the Metro Construction Committee that Metro is no longer pursuing any use of those funds to cover the cost of the D line or Purple Line extension project cost overrun. So that means we will be able to use that full amount of the funding source as we choose. And then the final update is just around the Open Streets Grant Program, which funds open streets events such as Ciclavia in the County of LA. And Metro is currently accepting applications for Cycle 5 of that Open Streets Grant Program. We have heard interest from the cities of Los Angeles, Culver City, and West Hollywood. And so COG staff will be supporting any application that comes from the subregion, and we're excited to see those move forward. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, that moves us over to item number 6. This is a longer presentation, so
I can
it's-
start.
Sorry.
I can start with the,
Yeah.
Riley, can you share the screen for the presentation? This next item on housing and homelessness is around eviction protections. With the next slide. Okay. So currently we're in the midst of an eviction tsunami. Eviction protection is part of our COG's strategic homelessness plan, which was adopted last year. With the eviction moratorium ending in March and certain COVID-related tenant protections have expired, we're seeing an uptick in eviction filings in recent months. Next slide. As you can see, the eviction filings in 2022 is actually going back up to pre-pandemic levels. And this number may be higher because it doesn't account for some illegal evictions or unreported filings from landlords or bad actors. In the city of Los Angeles, the deadline for tenants to pay back the back rent from 2021 to avoid eviction was August 1st. Next slide, Riley. And just recently, the landlord of the Barrington Plaza housing in West LA has issued an eviction notice to over 500 rent control units using the Alice Act, and some have until September to vacate. In 2020, the county had launched the Stay House LA program, which we will have a presentation shortly from the county staff, which is an eviction defense program, which also provides a suite of services related to outreach and education. Next slide, Riley. LAFLA, the LA Legal Aid Foundation, was one of the legal providers for the Stay House LA program. And to plan for the capacity, they had projected the number of tenants that would come to the Stay House LA program for services using historic data assumptions, which you can see here. Again, these are projections that are used of those who may come to the Stay House LA program. Oh, sorry. Okay. The county had also recently passed a motion for right to counsel, which basically codifies legal representations for low-income individuals and families. Santa Monica has a pilot program, which is currently working with LAFLA, which they plan to make permanent. Our other cities are partnering with Betzedic to provide legal services. Both of these legal providers suggested that they would need to double the number of attorneys to meet the demand of eviction defense services in the West Side. And recently, since the county passed a right to counsel motion just a few weeks ago, it also calls for, it is focused on unincorporated areas, but it also calls for a plan to expand universal access to incorporated cities by 2030. And evaluating, it would be great for us to evaluate how the cities, our cities can contribute to the Stay House LA program to access their services. And we just want to put that on everyone's radar and learn more about the county's plan and what that will mean for our cities. So with that said, I will like to invite Samaj Hughes from the County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs to share a little bit about the Stay House LA program and the recent right to counsel motion. I should also note this one last slide. Eviction can stop the inflow of those coming, falling into homelessness if we were to address that head on. And LASA just recently released the point in time count or the homelessness count, and SPA 5 has the highest increase out of all the SPAs in our region. So just wanted to share that like statistic, and you can stop your if you can stop sharing the screen, and we'll turn it over to Samaj, who has a presentation for us. Oops.
Hello, everyone. Give me a moment. I'm going to start sharing my slideshow.
Okay, perfect.
Let me know when you all can see it.
Yes,
Yes, we can.
yes.
Okay, great. And I'll turn on my camera so you all can see me. Give me one moment. What about now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So with that being said, good afternoon, and thank you all for inviting me to speak. My name is Samaje Hughes, and I'm the program coordinator for the Stay Housed LA program within the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. The Stay Housed LA program is a part of the larger Housing and Tenant Protection Division within DCBA. So our division is responsible for enforcing the county's rent stabilization ordinances for residents in the unincorporated areas of LA County. Our division ensures tenants, mobile home owners, landlords, and park owners are informed of their rights and responsibilities. Today specifically, though, I'm here to discuss LA County's Stay Housed program and potential right to counsel ordinance. I wanted to go over a few key points and then allow the rest of the time for questions. So what does Stay Housed LA do? Stay Housed is a partnership between the county and city of Los Angeles, legal service providers, and community-based organizations. The program provides education, outreach, legal representation, and short-term rental assistance to all tenants in LA County. DCBA houses, we focus on the unincorporated areas of LA County and incorporated cities, and the city of Los Angeles focus on city tenants. Our primary component is the provision of full scope and limited scope legal services. As part of limited scope, lawyers and other legal staff assist tenants with counsel, advice, and completion of any kind of relevant documents while fighting their unlawful detainer. While full scope legal representation occurs when a lawyer is able to fully represent a tenant in court who has received an eviction notice, an eviction notice, a lawful detainer. Another important component of eviction defense services is our rental assistance component. Our rental assistance can be used to pay back rental arrears and for prospective rent and deposits on new apartments for a tenant. To qualify for Stay Housed, to qualify for our Stay Housed legal services and rental assistance, a tenant must earn less than 80% of the area median income. For example, the 80% median income for a household of one is around $68,000. For a family of four is around $98,000. However, there are no income guidelines for who can attend our workshops and clinics. We have several Know Your Rights workshops and a lot of community-based outreach to just inform tenants of their rights as a renter. The next slide is a list of all of our partners. So we currently work with 23 legal service providers and community-based organizations who directly provide Stay Housed services to the public. We work with an array of CBOs and legal service providers to ensure we are delivering services to all areas within LA County. As you stated earlier, Winnie, our primary partner is Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, and they help us coordinate between the CBOs and the LSPs we currently work with. And I can provide a list of each one of these organizations along with their addresses and email and their website. So you can dig more into it and see if a partnership is right for the jurisdictions currently in attendance. The next slide is a brief summary of the metrics we've completed to date. So as Winnie said earlier, Stay Housed has been in operation since September 2020. It was supposed to be a pilot emergency eviction prevention program, but developed into much more as a response to the COVID pandemic. We've provided legal assistance to almost 20,000 tenant households, reached over 200,000 tenants through direct outreach and education, and provided short-term rental assistance to over 200 households in an amount of $1.8 million. And since this date, I want to kind of go into the right to counsel. So on July 11th, the Board of Supervisors recommended the creation of a right to counsel ordinance based on the success of the Stay Housed LA program, within the last few years, and the recent state of emergency declaration of homelessness by Mayor Karen Bass. So right to counsel is a guarantee from a local government establishing local law that all tenants or a defined class of tenants that meet certain criteria must be provided legal representation in eviction proceedings. The board also directed our department to elaborate on our universal access to legal representation phase-in plan for incorporated cities. As part of this directive, DCBA will start collaboration with non-City of LA incorporated cities to develop funding models for cities to contribute to Stay Housed LA in order to support standing up of services in their own jurisdiction. Unfortunately, due to attorney capacity and budgetary restraints, we are currently focusing on providing eviction defense services to tenants in prioritized zip codes within unincorporated LA County. And we plan on phasing other zip codes on an annual basis until 2030. DCBA is only able to establish a right to counsel for unincorporated LA tenants, but would like to work again with incorporated cities and either establishing a relationship for you to provide funding for State House to provide special services to your tenants, or helping you create your own right to counsel ordinance for your jurisdiction. We currently work with City of Long Beach in providing specialized services to their residents. All right, so here are a few values of right to counsel. So DCBA is currently working on completing a cost benefit analysis of current State House LA progress since September 2020. However, in December 2019, Stout, which is a private consulting firm, published a cost benefit analysis on the proposed right to counsel program, which is now deemed State House LA. The primary findings concluded that for every $4.80 invested, for every $1 invested, $4.80 would be saved. And some more like narrative values of right to counsel that we can apply to our tenants are: it prevents evictions, preserves affordable housing, promotes community stability, prevents homelessness, as Wendy said earlier, corrects the power imbalance. Over 90% of landlords are represented in court, while only 10% are in terms of the eviction. It provides a cost savings, and it overall is a racial equity project. So primarily, like we said before, we have two primary recommendations for the expansion of State House LA County. We want to do this by 2030 for all of LA County based on an increased number of evictions, as Wendy said earlier. According to data from the LA Superior Court, evictions across LA County have increased to levels not seen since 2015, while State House is only able to assist approximately 1/3 of the referrals that we currently get. The most updated metrics confirm that there have been over 23,000 eviction filings for only this year from January to June. Over 1,500 of those evictions were filed for West Side District tenants at the Santa Monica Courthouse. So the city of Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, all those tenants have filed over 1,500 evictions in the past 6 months. We are starting to experience an eviction avalanche and are working towards providing tenants with more assistance. With that being said, again, here are the two primary recommendations. So first one is for an adoption of a right to counsel ordinance for unincorporated LA County in 2024 with implementation in 2025, and also a phase-in of universal access to legal representation countywide for all cities within LA County by 2030. Our next steps. So first and foremost, drafting a right to counsel ordinance for unincorporated LA County tenants, revising our implementation plan for the phase-in of universal access. We originally recommended a plan in the April board report back, but we're working on revising it to incorporate all of the cities within LA County, excluding City of LA right now. We're currently also working on drafting a report that includes more resources and programs to mom and pop rental landlord owners, mom and pop rental property owners, and working to identify a permanent funding source to operationalize the expansion of State House LA. Currently, we're working on a $22 million for County of LA tenants. We're working on a $22 million budget, which we have funding through American Rescue Plan, permanent local housing allocation, emergency rental assistance program, and the City of Long Beach dollars I discussed earlier. However, the amount of funding that we need will increase as we incorporate more zip codes in universal access. We're hoping and looking towards applying for funding from La Casa, Measure H, and our Chief Executive Office's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Okay. With that being said, I wanted to talk about a few additional financial assistance programs that are available for rental property owners. The first one, which we currently have in place within DCBA, is called the Mortgage Relief Partnership Program. So this program will provide up to $30,000 directly to lending institutions or utility companies on behalf of landlords that can demonstrate that they have unpaid COVID-related debt from their tenants. And I want to preface this by saying all of these programs only apply for tenants who have COVID-related debt currently. The next two programs are inclusive, they're the same program with different kind of requirements, and they're both for mom and pop landlords. And a mom and pop landlord, we're defining it as a person with less than 4 units or less. So the first one is for non-mortgage related debt. So I know we heard that landlords were able to pay their mortgage during the COVID, but had to forego other things that they had to pay money on. So this money can be used to qualify for expenses like preservation, maintenance, or upkeep of the property. The second is a more general rent relief program, still for mom and pop landlords, which provides up to $120,000, and that's $30,000 per unit. And this is for landlords who can, again, demonstrate that they are delinquent in their mortgage payments from tenants who owe COVID-related debt. And with that, that is the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, we have here.
Do we have an estimate of what the cost would be of such a program?
For the first year, for fiscal year 2023-2024, we're estimating about $18 million. And for next year is $23 million. The reason why it's so low right now is we're only working on serving prioritized zip codes. And then next year, we're trying to focus on the entire LA County, unincorporated LA County. It gets more and more expensive as we progress, though.
Any other question, Lester?
Yes. Can you go back to the last slide in terms of that went fairly quickly for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The first program on our left is for COVID related only. Is that what you said?
Yes. Each program is
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, each program is only for COVID related debt at this point.
All three programs are COVID related debt. So
yes.
It said that if the landlord was delinquent in their debt to the lendor, or is it just that they paid the lendor to the detriment of other maintenance items that they needed to do during the COVID period?
Also, two separate programs.
Sorry so much. I can actually take, I can actually take this. Hi, everyone. Dana Pratt, Deputy Director for Housing and Tenant Protections with DCBA. So yes, for the Mortgage Relief Partnership Program, yes, you have to have delinquent mortgage, property taxes, or utilities for that particular program. But for the mom and pop landlord non-mortgage program, and I'm sorry, that's a mouthful, and the rent relief program, those don't necessarily require that you have a delinquent mortgage payment, but you do have to be able to verify that the financial hardship is as a result of a COVID, as a result of the tenants having delinquent COVID-related debt.
So the delinquency of the landlord, if it was cured at some point after the COVID period, does that still give them eligibility or not?
For the first program, no, because because the payments are going to be made directly to the lending institution, to the lender or servicer.
And the second program, they could be out of delinquency now, they could have made it, or do they still need to be in delinquency?
The other thing that I wanted to just note for the other two is that they're pending. So there are still some details being worked out. They have not launched yet. We're hoping to launch them by the fall of this year. So those details are still being fine-tuned. But again, not related to the mortgage delinquencies. So I hope that addresses the question, but we will still share additional information as we get closer to the launch dates for those two programs.
Okay, on another subject, I understood that the comment that $1 saves $4.80, but can you go a little bit further into that as to how that analysis was made?
Yes. Okay. So this language came from a report detailed by Stout, and I can send it over. It's lengthy, but it goes into detail. But overall, it's talking about cost avoided. So cost avoided where it comes with emergency shelter programs, like cost avoided if someone was to cost avoided from people utilizing services they wouldn't have to utilize if they weren't evicted. So that goes for emergency shelters, school loss, like truancy loss of kids not going to school because they have nowhere to stay, just things like that. So potential cost avoided by the county and city when they invest $1 into the Right to Counsel program.
Okay, I won't get argumentative, but that's highly speculative.
Yes, and we understand that. We're trying to work on a program that's more emphasizing what we've already done and the actual costs that we've avoided, and we're trying to work out the logistics. So we do understand that argument.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Now the question comes, okay, from this presentation, where do we go from here? Any thoughts from staff?
Yes, are there any other questions from staff or the board? Okay, our next step is we've been speaking with our staff, your city staff at the homelessness working group, and we are going to start a peer learning exchange in the next few months for our jurisdictions to come together and learn and draw best practices from each other's tenant protection and eviction defense programs. And we'll continue to monitor the county's right to counsel motion and ordinance. And I also believe the city of LA is also considering and drafting an ordinance to right to counsel. That's our next step.
Okay, so yeah, thank you to LA County's representatives. We really appreciate this presentation. It highlighted a few interesting aspects. So I'm sure we will have those discussions between our cities in our, so we call it technical committee that we have with staff. So thank you.
Great, and I'll provide this to Winnie to share with you all also. The PowerPoint. Thank you all and have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you. So, so we are going to get something back from our committee then, I guess, from.
Yeah, we can report back from our discussions.
That would be good.
Okay.
Thank you. That moves us over to number 7, legislation. And we have allocated 15 minutes to you today. I guess it's to make up for all the 5 minutes we haven't given you the earlier meetings.
I appreciate it. And I know we're probably running a tad behind, but not too bad. But if there are any, I'm going to really focus. I've got a PowerPoint also today, but I want to really focus on highlighting some of the things that are already in my briefing. So I wanted to give an opportunity if there were any specific questions from staff or the board who wanted to bring anything up now, that's certainly appropriate. Otherwise, I will dive right in. Okay, not seeing anyone. The legislature comes back on Monday. They currently are 35 days away from their end of session. So they will adjourn for the year on September the 14th. So now is really the time to write those letters, call your representatives, talk about some of the pieces of legislation that are moving. The first one I'm going to cover is a bill that is going to authorize the county to impose a sales tax, transaction and use tax of up to 0.5% for homeless services. This would essentially be a replacement for Measure M. Measure H. That's a typo. So the Los Angeles County Division of CalCities has suggested that in this new replacement for Measure H, that we need to have a local return. We've specifically asked for a 40% local return on those funds. A lot of cities in this region are paying in to Measure H, but not receiving much in the way of a return for their services, and as a result, are paying out of pocket on a lot of these things. The other condition that our board has set is that we don't want to see the cap go away. We don't want to see this go above and beyond the current sales tax cap. We don't want to see those taxes for sales tax rising any further than they are currently allowed. That is part of what the county has been discussing and has proposed, and that's just something that we're not willing to go with. So next slide. These are two of the bills that I wanted to highlight. Fentanyl, we did a lot on fentanyl at the beginning of the year. We really pushed the Assembly Public Safety Committee to hold hearings They initially said they were not going to do it until the legislature was out for the year. And we just didn't think that was appropriate. So we've issued a support position on AB 33 that does seem to be moving. It's not as far as some of the other bills that we were hoping to support go, but it's something, and we really do feel that we need to move on it. The next couple bills are on homelessness. On AB 67, it's a Miritsuchi bill. The city of Redondo Beach and a few other cities in the South Bay have already been sort of the pilot for this, but this sets up a statewide pilot that would help for those unhoused folks who have tickets or have to go before a judge, that they can agree to accept services, housing, and they would essentially have their conviction, what they are there for in front of a judge to be waived. So that's something we're supporting. Next slide. These two bills are bills we have supported last year. They didn't pass last year. They were part of Senator Eggman's 5 or 6 package last year. These were the ones that didn't move forward. We're really hoping we can get them to move forward. The first one up there would change and expand the definition of gravely disabled for those unhoused folks who are really resistant to services. This would give the state and the mental health professionals the ability to potentially bring them in against their will in some cases, in order to help get them back on their medication, make sure they're taking care of any health issues they may have, and possibly get them into housing once they can have a chance to get their mental health and physical health issues addressed. The second bill up there is a real-time database for any of those healthcare professionals and mental health professionals who see someone on the street who is willing to accept services. They don't necessarily know where they can take that individual. This would just provide a real-time database for them to know where there are open beds, where they can actually take someone without having to do that additional, sometimes several day delays. So that's something we're certainly supporting. Next slide. These two bills I've got up here are new state mandated costs that have the potential to pass this year. The first one, obviously, our local assembly member, he is suggesting that temporary employees can be put into the same bargaining unit as permanent employees. That's obviously going to raise costs to cities and local agencies, and something we're flat out opposing. AB 1637, we've tried to work with the author on this. We were opposed unless amended. We were simply asking for some funding to help do this, or some more time on that calendar. But this would require that all local agencies, local cities, adopt a .gov or a .ca.gov website and email domain by 2029. It takes a lot to change over your full website, to change over and get that. A lot of cities, even some in this room, have spent a lot of time building up that the branding on those websites. They're trusted by the people in your community, and we don't think that you should need to change. Or if you are going to have to change, then let's at least put some money in it and give some time for those small jurisdictions. So we're opposed to that one. Next slide, Riley. This one is not moving until next year, but I wanted to highlight it here for you. SB 584 by Lamone would create a 15%, essentially a TOT tax on top of the local tax that already exists. And these funds would not go to the locals, but instead go to the state. And this would just be for those short-term rentals, like on an Airbnb or a VRBO type of thing. So we are opposed unless amended on that. Excuse me. Opposed unless amended on that bill. Hoping that we can come up with a different way to fund it. We do support the idea of this labor force housing, but we don't think a TOT tax is the appropriate way to fund it. Next slide. This one, AB 1490, is also another oppose unless amend. This is for 100% affordable housing projects. You don't see a whole heck of a lot of those, but we're not asking for a whole heck of a lot either. The amendments we're requesting This bill currently does not require any additional parking to be put in. And if you change a low density site to a multifamily, larger density site, we think it's appropriate that you should have to follow some of those local rules and regulations on parking, especially when those are not served by transit. So we're opposed unless amended to that. Next slide. This is an easy one. It's a housing bond. We're supporting it, trying to get that on the ballot for, I think they're going to end up putting it on the primary election. So that actually would be earlier next year. There's a few more details there. Gives us cities some funding. We really need funding in order to get a lot of this affordable housing. So it's something we're supportive of. Next slide. SB4, again, I'm highlighting a lot of bills here that we're seeking amendments on. We're not getting, we're trying not to be the League of No, as we've been called, and we are trying to work with these authors. And that's one of the reasons I'm highlighting them, is to ask for your help in seeking these amendments. SB4 would provide housing development by right on higher education institutions and religious institution sites currently. Really what we're just seeking the amendments on is for parking and building height. That's really all we're asking for here. We agree that we want to help with the solution of building more housing, but we want to have some rules in place for the locals as well. Next slide. This is obviously one of the biggest bills we've been talking about all year, SB 423 by Senator Wiener. This was heavily amended in the Natural Resources Committee right before they went on recess. They haven't updated the website to show us the new language yet, but we are still very much opposed to it. This is extending SB 35, extends the sunset to 2036 and extend it to the coastal zone. The Coastal Commission was actually in opposition to this in Natural Resources. I don't know if they sort of came to a compromise of amendments rather than taking all of the Coastal Commission amendments. So we're not sure if that will bring the Coastal Commission to neutral or not, but we're still very much going to be opposed to anything that extends this this sort of blank check to create these housing developments in cities. So next, and I think my final slide, I want to talk about e-bikes a bit. Well, actually, I'll start with bikes on sidewalks. AB 825 by Assemblymember Bryan would prevent a city from enforcing or prohibiting a city from enforcing bicycles on sidewalks if there is no adjacent bike lane on that street. The amendments we were trying to work with the author. We've moved to a strict oppose. We were trying to make it for a sort of an exemption for anyone under 13. That didn't seem to go anywhere. We were trying to get exemptions for business activity districts. That didn't seem to really go anywhere. So I was thinking like the Santa Monica 3rd Street Promenade, things like that. To have bicyclists, on a lot of these places is not necessarily appropriate. But we haven't been able to really succeed in getting anywhere on this one. So we are asking for a full oppose on this bill at this moment. The last one I wanted to highlight for you, Cal Cities does not have a position on this. It's a gut and amend that just came up a few weeks ago by Assemblymember Borner. Unfortunately, in her district, she represents the city of Anitas, the beach cities down in San Diego County. She did just have a 13-year-old, I believe, in her district who was on one of these electric bicycles and was killed when they were struck by a car. I know in the beach cities in my region, down in the South Bay and here as well, we see a lot of dangerous activity with kids on these bikes. This would set up a training session, essentially a licensing program by the DMV, includes a written test and a state issued photo ID that would have to be done for those persons above 12 years of age without a valid driver and without a valid driver's license. And it would prohibit anyone under 12 from riding any type of these electric bicycles. So I wanted to highlight this because it's not moving this year, but I know it's a big concern in many of my cities. So I'm wanting to open that conversation if any other city is having these challenges. So That's my presentation. Happy to answer any questions if you have it, or come up to me afterward.
Colleagues, any questions, thoughts?
Try to make it short. Going back to the very first slide, I believe, the increase in the state tax. And you said that opposed if it increased the state limit. Is that what if it doesn't increase the state limit, those cities that are already at 10.25 would be immune from the increase, and those cities who have not increased it would be subject to it? Is that what it is?
No, so there are 6 cities who are currently not paying in to Measure H because they were already at the cap. This is the county's way that just putting that above and beyond the cap is one way for the county to say, well, everyone has to pay into this. But our board didn't like the idea of pushing the sales tax even further above and beyond the, I think you're right, the 10.25.
Okay, so it would apply, it would not apply then to those, if it were passed the way it is, it would not apply to those cities who are at the max already.
Because it raises the cap.
Well,
It would
raise the cap.
It would.
The law would raise the cap.
Yes.
And the league is like, but it shouldn't raise the cap.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
We do have a comment on Zoom. Councilmember O'Brien.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Jeff, for your presentation. I was curious about, it might be the next slide, that there were a couple bills that were addressing, let's see. Yeah, like the homeless courts pilot program. Going back to SB 1338 that set up the care courts, I seem to remember there being, which runs counter to what we heard at the ICA event when Gascon spoke last weekend, but there was an ability for municipalities or whomever to send someone into service by mandate for 30 days, but that suddenly went away when they were talking, or when it wasn't Gascon that was talking about, it was someone in homeless services from the county. Am I misremembering that, or did they change it on the fly?
If you're referring to the care court provisions that were signed into law, I believe last year, year before, originally it was a much more expansive project. It was going to affect a lot more people. The final bill that ended up passing and being implemented was much more narrow. So you really do have to, there's a lot of hurdles in order to qualify to be part of the care court program. And that's something that we're trying to address with the next slide, the 2 Eggman bills, or the one Eggman bill on behavioral health, which would help. Possibly I'm not sure how that would interact with care court exactly, but this is one part that would help us to get these folks into services if they're resistant and they do qualify under this updated definition.
Got it. So, okay, this would complement 1338. Thank you.
I hope so. I'm not entirely sure how it would work with care court that's already in place, but I hope it would.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any final question or thought from anyone here? Or online? But thank you, pleasure. Keep up the good work. We need that, that's for sure. That moves us over to receive and file. So we got a SCAG update, July 2023. I can entertain a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Okay, I second. So we have a motion and a second to receive and file. Roll call.
Beverly Hills.
Yes.
Santa Monica.
Yes.
County of Los Angeles.
Yes.
And Culver City.
Yes. Okay, that brings us over to announcements. And I'm going to take share prerogative here. I ask going to give you a quick update on an announcement from us from Culver City. So we on Monday, this coming Monday, we will be opening up our safe sleeping, safe camping site. We've been it's taken us about 6 months from decision until it's now operational. We have Urban Alchemy who's going to run it for us. It's 20 tents that can sleep up to 2 in each tent. It has shower facilities, has a little dog area. It has laundry service, food service, and so on and so forth. If you are interested in coming and visit, on Saturday, we have sort of a public engagement day where we're going to have the Boy Scouts and a couple of our service clubs are going to come and furnish the tents with the beds and all the equipment we bought and put together, chairs and so on. After that, it's actually going to be locked down and restricted to the clients that we move from our streets into that facility. So if you are interested, let me know or let Shelley know. And I think it is between 10 and 2, maybe Dan, if he's still on, maybe he knows because
thanks, Jorn. It's from 8 a.m. to noon.
8 a.m. to noon on Saturday. Then you are most welcome to come and look and see what we have put together, which is a little different than you have seen in pictures from other places that has these safe camping, safe sleeping. We also were one of the few cities within our spa who got home key money to buy. We bought 2 motels that we now finally, this has taken a year, to refurbish, rebuild, and get them up and doing. So in a couple of weeks, they will be operational also. It will give us about 73 rooms split between transitionary housing and permanent supported housing. So that is still available for a tour since it's not operational yet. Our service provider who's going to run that is Exodus. That was my little announcement. So anyone has anything else you want to share?
In the city of Santa Monica, I just went to a ribbon cutting ceremony for a community corporation of Santa Monica. They're our largest affordable housing provider. And they opened up a new facility with 48 units, single and family units as well. So 1 bedroom and 3 bedrooms. But what's very unique about this project is that we're on the ground floor, we're opening up sort of a business startup, like a marketplace for not only the tenants in the building, but in the community as well. So there's going to be rent-free business startup for those entrepreneurs that want to start their business for the first year. And then as they progress and make more money, they can, they're able to pay a rent, for their business. So it's a very exciting facility. It's right across from Santa Monica College on 19th and Pico. So between 19th and Pico in the city of Santa Monica, if anybody's interested to see that in operation. It's pretty unique for us.
And then can we just also confirm, or do we need to vote on having that on the agenda for next month or next meeting? Okay.
I heard consensus that we were going to put on October agenda your suggestion. So without objection, yeah, it's done. Any further announcements? Anyone? Okay, that brings us to a future meeting and agenda items we've done. So next meeting is October 12th, and that's going to be in the city of Culver City. And now, do we have any public comments? Seeing none, I can now obtain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion. I hear a second.
Second.
Second. Meeting is adjourned.